Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another viewer request video. This one comes from Johnny Boy MC. He wanted me to make a hob, and he wanted it to be a planter filter. Now I've been getting an awful lot of requests, and I've been noticing that there are a fair amount of crossovers between most of the builds. And I don't want these videos to become too repetitive, so even though this is going to be a hob planter filter, it could also be an extra large hob that's air driven. I'm just going to do it slightly differently this way. So as we go along, I'm going to show you how you can easily convert these from one style to another, and that way those of you who aren't making the requests don't have to watch through too much of the exact same thing. Now if you remember the last hob I built, it was the air power lift one, and it was pretty much a box, and I cut out bits and pieces to make things fit. Now I want to make this a lot more streamlined. So what I'm going to do is this large sheet here, because it doesn't fit in the vise, by the way, I'm clamping it to a piece of wood so I can drill properly. I'm going to drill round holes, and these round holes are going to be where the water will go in and out, and as we go along you'll see it's a much neater way of doing it. And because I haven't shown my belt sander in a while, I'll show you it's still up and running. And when I cut the 1-inch tube on an angle, you'll see there's a little bit of a flange there and a little rough on the edge, and it's very difficult to take that off evenly, so I use this obviously. Actually I just wanted to show the belt sander. So what I'm going to do is the same as the last time. I'm going to make an angle, like an uplift tube, the same as before, and then I'm going to make these two little ones I'm going to make here are going to be where the water is going to go back into the tank. As we go along it'll become more obvious. Now because I want this to be a fairly precise build, I am going to put a bit of a chamfer on this and flatten it out so it's nice and even, because I don't want to actually glue them on. I'm going to make this so it's convertible, and that way I can take them out and try other stuff later on without having to build a completely new filter. So this is going to be the front part. This is going to be the part that's going to hang on the tank itself. And as you can see, I just drilled 3 holes. One's going to be the input, and the other 2 are going to be outputs. And because I've done a lot of air-driven stuff lately, this one is going to be run by a small power head. So this is going to be the input tube, and I'm going to just glue that together, and it's going to go in there. And then these 2 smaller tubes are going to be where the water is going to come out. And of course, because the pumps I use don't fit easily into this outlet, I just built a bushing for it. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do the bushing again because I've done lots of those. I am going to try giving you a little bit extra in the way of detail in this video for some of it, but not as much. All I did for this one, this is the last one I made, and I just used it as a guide for the new one just to pick up the pace a little bit when I'm making them. And these are the 2 outlets, and they're going to go friction fit into those holes, and that's where the water is going to come out. It's actually really kind of cool when it's running, and it looks a lot neater. And because of the style of build, it's actually much simpler for someone who hasn't made a filter before or anything else. This is a much simpler way of making it. Now I'm going to go through the gluing of this one more time. My apologies for those of you who have seen this way too many times already, but whenever you're making something that holds water, it is important to make sure it's glued properly, and this is the hardest one to do, and that is the first one. And you have to take your time, and I've been getting an awful lot of questions as to what kind of glue I use, and it's called methylene chloride. It's not a glue. It's a solvent, and it does dissolve both sides and forms a chemical weld. And so I'm kind of hoping to stave off more comments along those lines, but we'll see how that goes. So as I'm building this, all this is a box. This particular box is going to hang on the back. It could be a box that sits inside. It could be a box that sits on top. Actually, the video I'm going to be doing later on in the week, hopefully, if I get the time, is going to be an over-the-top tank, like one that sits on top of the tank. It's kind of interesting style, and it's actually kind of useful sometimes. But like I said, it's For a lot of uses, this filter is convertible between them. It's just a box, and you can build it any sort of way you like, and then you can modify what you do to the inside of this box for what style of filter you want, whether you want sponges, lava rock, or in this particular case, gravel with HOB, or with pothos. So like I said, it's very easy to convert to this, and I am using this with a water pump, but you could just as easily use it with air driven or power lift or whatever you like. So what I was doing there is, this is reversible at this point. You could have the input on one side or the other side, and you just have to flip it, and you just have to figure out which way you want it. I didn't really care. This is actually going to hang on one of the tanks on the top row at some point, and then I'm going to use it for its actual intended purpose. I'm going to use it as a planter. But like I said, it can be done either way. And then once this progresses, you see how much quicker the gluing process goes, because as you straighten out the acrylic, it glues much faster and much easier. And there you are, you're done. So one of the other things I had done recently that I didn't show all the details for is when you make an elbow like this. I mean, those are just two 45-degree cuts on a table saw, but normally what I do is I test them, and I didn't show that in this particular one. Or sorry, in the last couple times. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through that process. So what I do is I just tack it a little bit initially, just so it holds still, and then I put a extra bit of glue on and let that re-dissolve, and then I hold it together and to make sure it's nice and tight. And then once I have that done, all I do is I squirt a bit of water in it. You have to make sure you don't miss the hole and end up causing it to drip without it. But this is a good idea to do before you try using these things, just to make sure it's watertight. And there you go. It's an easy test. And because this is running off of a pump instead of just air driven, there's going to be more pressure, so I wanted to double check that as well. So all we need to do now is put on the bracket, and that is just as simple as possible. You just cut 2 strips of acrylic. In this case, I'm using a piece of scrap wood at the right height, and all you do is just glue it in place. And these can be custom made to whatever size tank you're currently using or want it on. And all you do is just make it wider or narrower depending on whatever frame you have on the side of it. So it's pretty easy. And then the piece of wood just holds it parallel, so when it's hanging on the back of the tank, it looks nice and even. And one other detail that I'm not sure I've ever mentioned is when you're gluing vertically, put very little glue on it, because you don't want it to run down the side, and in that case we'll end up making a mess. You'll have streaks on it because this stuff will dissolve instantly, and then it's just ugly looking. So once you have it tacked in place, then you can flip it on its side, and you can put the proper amount of glue in the joint, and there you go. It's nice and tight. And of course you have to let it evaporate and set and stuff. But it doesn't take long at all. Now I'm going to do is flip this back up, and these are where the water is going to go back into the tank. And I really like this style because first off, they're just friction fit. They won't leak because if you drill the hole properly and you have a good drill bit, it is actually, as you can see what I'm doing there, it is actually really quite tight. And because it is friction fit, you can pull them out and clean them, and if they ever get to the point where they're loose, you can always just glue them in place. And that's it. That's where the water is going to come back into the tank. And there's less likelihood of this dripping, leaking, and everything else when it gets dirty, which is kind of cool. That's the input pipe. Obviously, you can't fit on the table properly here. I'm just going to show you tilted, but obviously it's going to be vertical. There we go. We're going to fill it up, and you can see it fills a lot faster with a pump. It's kind of neat, but I still actually like air driven. It's besides the fact you don't require another pump and you don't have anything sticking in the tank or more wires. I don't know. I just liked it. So there you go. This fills up. This you can put anything you want in. Sponges, lava rock, like I said. You can put chambers in it if you want. They can just slide in, whatever you like. It's just a box, and you can hang on whatever you want into this. It's just up to you. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. And like I said, I'm going to try and consolidate some of the builds so that you don't get a repetitive you know, the same sort of thing all the time. This is actually a different style of build for it, and I really wanted to show this anyway, so killed two birds with one stone this way. Oh, and this is actually something else. I recently had to get a new phone because, well, my old phone was 9 or 10 years old, and I decided because it was a bit of a tight fit in here, I wanted to give it a try because it's, you know, it's a phone instead of a big camera. And I actually really like the resolution. It's really kind of cool. Let me know below if you like this. The other thing nice about it is I can reverse how it films, and it's just easier for me to get different kinds of angles and stuff. Of course, if I start using it, I'm going to have to build a bracket for it, and so it can fit on the stand and all kinds of stuff, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and as always, let me know what's going on below, and I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.